Wow. Okay. Well, I will say my sweater vest was in the cleaners. So I'm very happy to be here. Consider this a very broad overview. Before I begin, I want to say what a pleasure it is to see the people in person who I've been bothering via email, asking them to read my papers, give me advice, etc. So thank you. One thing that I think we can all agree on is that puppetry and current events have this really fascinating relationship, kind of a push and pull, a little bit of a love affair, in that puppetry historically has allowed us to hold current events at a certain distance. It allows us to come together to examine our feelings about it, to understand what must be done, all sorts of other things that come from the action of being able to hold current events at a distance via puppetry performance, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about maybe how that relationship started in my mind. So news, of course, tells us, in the words of both Marvin Gaye and Four Non-Blondes, what's going on? Okay. Now this all started with the town crier, who was just a particularly loud and very upset individual. People walked by and, oh, very good, very good. They sort of started asking him, of course, the necessary question of what's going on? Why are you crying? And he eventually started telling people the news. However, this was all happening in the town square, people bustling by, walking, and soon they were distracted by, shall we say, another native species of the public square, of the town square, which is to say, puppetry. And now, historically, this would have probably been a hand puppet show or a shadow puppet show, depending on what continent you were on, but Albert Groser's scarf marionettes are really fun to draw, so that's that choice. So puppetry took over the town square. It was exciting, bustling, entertaining, so puppety, so fresh. And so News started skulking, and he took, of course, to the coffee shop, where he became a little bit of a celebrity. Those in the know are those in the news. But he was soon overshadowed by puppetry. He could not get away from it. People needed puppetry to sort of process these things. So this is a little bit of a nod to Terror as usual. So News took to the road. And historically, people were able to use to question travelers about the news. This has been documented by anthropologists in Zulu people and Mongolian people and Polynesian people and American Southerners as like a top priority of questioning travelers. What's going on? What is the news of the day? However, of course, traveling puppeteers also have a rich history. And this is something that I've bothered a lot of you about, and I hope to continue to do research on the relationship between social change, current events, traveling puppeteers, but another conference. Okay, so they met. Finally, they decided, the news is really heavy. It's a lot to carry. What if it was made of paper? What if it was flat? What if it had an arch? What if it was miniature? And over 122 very romantic spaghetti dinners in the 9th Street Theater, Terror as Usual was born. I have just a little bit more to say about that, and I'm so grateful that we're going to see a real live Great Small Works performance later. But basically, it is really marvelous that they have been able to create such prescient current work about current events, to process it together, right? And to nod to, modernity, Walter Benjamin, and say, like, this is Terror as Usual, right? It's an amazing thing to be able to share that and feel the hard things together through puppetry. Now, Hi, Mark Sussman. Thank you for answering my email. According to Mark Sussman, there's been a process of composing scenes, seeing which ones work, tossing some, creating a montage, stitching scenes together, and creating a narrative based on how the images work next to each other. And it is referred to often as a surreal news serial. I think it's really important that there are some collage and even some like object theater elements in Great Small Works Terror as Usual. I think that's very immediate, the materiality of that is really, I think we can connect to it really readily. So the first episode of Terror as Usual was made in the fall of 1990 during what was later known to be the countdown to the First Gulf War. The Queen's Museum of Art commissioned a retrospective of scenes from the first 12 episodes in the hall that houses the panorama of the city of New York. This was in 2010, and they also had a retrospective, if we can call it that, in the gallery at Concordia University in 2012. It is the newness of news, which gives it an uncertain quality, which distinguishes it from the more careful investigations of history or other scholarly disciplines. As such, it takes more than just a scholar to deliver this information. The emotional quality of living in rapidly changing times is fraught, and as the information we take in reaches a critical mass, puppetry's flexibility allows it to traverse various societal status groups and locations. Its mobility and ability to perform outside of working hours and its simplicity allow for its accessibility and survival. And it has been performed as part of familial and community celebrations. Still, we note the necessary, immediate, and possible in the work of all theater which responds to the current events through puppetry. I mean that this work performed speaks to the experiences of and is accessible to those whom it is presented and illuminates possibilities of life beyond their present existence and beyond the present suffering that we feel in these current events. In this, to me, it is closely tied to the core of social change and the use of art as a tool to imagine possible futures. Finally, I want to point out that while John is, of course, a consummate scholar, I can see you blushing even though it's dark, and a trusted mentor, the artistic practice alongside his practice of research is really what cements him as a role model in this field. The ability to maintain wild, radical creativity and to wear silly hats while reading deeply into the history of puppetry and ontology of objects is one I really do admire. But when I first got into puppetry, I looked up like, well, what can I read about puppetry? And it was just like a stack of books by John Bell. And then I found myself at UConn Go Huskies. So the point being, I hope that we all can use both verve and vigor and academic rigor to investigate what puppetry means and continue to do so. John, thank you for lighting the path. Big pleasure.